to episode 163 of Galway Pirate Radio. I am your host, David Beauchamp, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Meyer.
And yes, I kind of sound a little timely, with a wibbly-wobbly timeline right now. I am sort of in the midst of a cold, but we are dedicated to giving you new episodes of GPR, and you're totally off screen now, but we are talking about Time Heist.
We are. Well, yes. I'll be talking about Heist. You'll be rasping about Time Heist.
Yes.
Did you like Time Heist?
I like Time Heist.
Did you love Time Heist?
I liked it. I can't say I loved it, but I gotta say, so far this entire season, I've liked every episode.
You know, I was thinking the same thing, and I was also thinking how interesting it might be to take a look at every season of Doctor Who and just see what the first half of the season looked like and compare it to this one, because while there hasn't been any standout, absolutely throw down, love them, I also haven't hated a single episode, which I don't think I can, well, hate is such a strong word, but I don't think I have disliked strongly any of the episodes we've seen so far.
They have been extremely consistent.
Yes, consistent is a good thing. I haven't, the things I liked about them I've liked, and the things I've disliked, I've been okay with disliking them, not enough to completely throw me off the story.
Well, it hasn't been Rings of Akaton for you again.
Yeah, and the Rings of Akaton is such a weird story because I really disliked it, but I wanted to like it. Yeah. That's the thing. It's not, say, The Gunslinger or Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, which are the episodes that I just couldn't, I don't ever want to see them again,
If I had a choice between The Gunslinger, or whatever that episode's called, and Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, give me the Gunslinger episode, or A Town Called Mercy.
Town Called Mercy,
yes,
right.
Give me A Town Called Mercy any day of the week over Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
The problem with Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, episode we really shouldn't be talking about now, is that I watched it so many times because I did a review for this podcast and another podcast and something else I'm done. I'm done with it. But I could watch Time Heist again.
Yeah.
No, I was a little late to the game. I missed it on Saturday. I didn't get into Late Sunday, which is always interesting to spend 2 days off of the internet, just at least off of Facebook, so I didn't get spoiled to anything. I watched it with Megan, so cold watch with both of us. We liked it okay. I watched the second time. I still liked it okay. This is an episode that I really, really wanted to like, but at the same time had some trepidation with because it's a genre that hadn't really been done by Doctor Who before. Stephen Thompson is not a terrible writer. He's certainly written more Doctor Who stories than I have. But I didn't come into it with high expectations.
Except your Absalom Dax Dialect Killer.
Oh yeah, well, not only was that scene awesome, but there were three other reasons to make that particular scene really good. I really dug that one.
Well, I need to slow it down so I can see
I have the whole list right here.
Oh, you do? Awesome.
Oh yes, I wrote it down several times. That's because that's how I do. Okay, I think once again, if nothing else, they have delivered solid cold opens that in the intro to every episode has made me want to... obviously there's no reason for me to turn off the television, but definitely if I were an audience member who was kind of on the fence about whether or not to watch Doctor Who, all 5 of these cold opens have been really solid.
And it's getting really solid and steady ratings. It's not going up and down like some have done in the past. It's had really solid ratings and viewer index polls, which is something they do over in Britain.
Yeah.
But it's getting solid figures over there.
This is the most watched season of Doctor Who in its entire history.
Yeah.
As far as the first 5 episodes are concerned, so that's really great. I think a lot of that has to do with just the show's popularity. It's definitely in the public's eye.
Coming off the high of the 50th anniversary.
There's a lot of we have another theater event, and it's a good time to be a Doctor Who fan. I think. I know I've heard a lot of negative things about this episode, and I've heard a lot of people really singing this show's praises, and I liked it just fine.
Yeah.
I don't. This is certainly not my favorite episode of the season. And if I had a least favorite episode, I don't know.
I don't know. I have to wait till we get the whole season before I could say what the high points are, what the low points are.
Sure, of course. I'm saying so far.
Well, so it's really hard for me to say what the high point is and what the low point is so far because they've been so consistent.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I probably have more favorite moments than I do actually episodes right now. Like, anytime that you get Claire and the Doctor together and they're just talking, and of course we discovered that's mostly Moffat writing those lines, they're just out, or no, that's Danny Pink. I mean, honestly, anytime you have Clara conversing with either the Doctor or Danny Pink, it's incredible.
Which is one of the reasons I don't love this episode, because this is the first episode of the season where Clara has taken a more traditional companion role to the Doctor. Honestly, with the exception of the fact that she is the Doctor's companion, there really isn't a reason to have her in this scene.
You know what this episode reminds me of? It reminds me of a Davis and TARDIS. Because you have so many companions in this episode.
It's true, but at certain times you can have a crowded TARDIS and still have something for everybody to do. If I were planning a bank heist, yes, I would have to have my brilliant mastermind. I got my computer hacker. I got my ability to take on anyone's identity. Clara doesn't really serve as much of a purpose with this one, and I think because of a lack of writing for her and their chemistry isn't as great, there's still some very funny lines, this took a step back for me because if you look at the things that I have liked this season, and we've really talked about, it's rarely been the stories, it's been the character moments, like you said. There are some good character moments, a couple of good ones, but for the most part I feel like they're rehashing other character moments. So it wasn't, just the one shot with Danny Pink. And I love that everything that Clara and Danny Pink does is out of sync time-wise. So even him in a conversation face-to-face with her, obviously they're full-blown in this relationship, but he can't even get his words out correct.
Which means I want to talk about that later, about the whole timeline thing.
The timeline thing, yeah. I do love a gang. I like a crowded TARDIS, but I like a crowded TARDIS when it's done well. I think my favorite crowded TARDIS, at least in New Who, is definitely Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, because we have 6 characters on there and I think everyone had something to do. Everyone had some good lines. I still think that actually might be a high point in the last 2 years for me, as far as that one's concerned. This one, the characters are fine, but I don't feel like their personalities are particularly fleshed out. There's some aspects of them I wonder what their motivation is.
Yeah, but if you think about a lot of heist films, I mean, really, how much characterization do we get? I mean, if you look at Ocean's 11, which is, you have 11 different, there isn't a lot of fleshing out of the characters.
True, but you have 11 characters versus 4.
Yeah, but you also have...
And we already know who the Doctor is, and we already know who Clara is.
You get, 40, 50 minutes here, you get 2.5 hours there. I mean...
Your math still doesn't work out. I still would have liked to.
Well, I'm just saying.
And so, especially when our characters quote unquote die so early in the thing. It's
Which
like,
I was kind of taken aback by that at first. I'm just like, I thought those were some very tense moments.
Very much so. I think the Teller is a really creepy
Star Wars monster.
Star Wars monster. Yeah, I don't want to. He's definitely a monster, but and I don't want
He's not a bad guy. That's the reason why I say Star Wars.
I don't want to even talk about the end quite yet. Okay, once again, Doug McKinnon, great job directing, acting all around, relatively good. I feel like the actors did fine with what they were worked with. I don't think the dialogue was as well written. I'm gonna assume that Moffat did certain scenes and Thompson did others. I blame Thompson for that, I guess.
One thing I'm thinking, they're being very experimental with this season, with the way they're filming stuff, with the way they're telling their stories, and I think it's really paying off.
Well, I think they're certainly trying.
They're experimenting.
Yeah, they're trying some things, but it's nice because we have some. McKinnon had done several stories in the past. In fact, I think he's quite a few stories just over the last couple of years. And if I'm not mistaken, he's got, I don't remember how he's got this season, but he's doing, I think, most of any director. But yeah, Ben Wheatley did a great job. Paul Murphy did a fine job. But we definitely got the feel of a Leverage. Ocean's 11-esque kind of story for the first half, and then I think the second half it falls into the monster chasing you through tunnels kind of a thing, and I feel that that's part of what let me down for it. And again, when I say let me down, it's just I liked it fine, I just didn't, if you're gonna have a heist film, make it a heist film. I think this story works better on paper than it actually did.
Well, I think their problem is because, and I mean, this is why I think we haven't had a historical. They think because this is science fantasy, we always have to have a monster. We always have to have a creature. And I think they could have, if they would have removed the creature element, they could have really focused on the heist and given us more out of the heist.
I think that's not bad. Though the one concept in this episode that I really do like is the fact that they've wiped. One, I like the wiping their memories.
Yeah.
So we got that fun little, why. I think that's a great thing. But also the reason for doing so to remove guilt.
But that can easily be fixed by a computer program. Like there's scanners in the bank that are scanning for that sort of thing. This is the future. You can at least still have that, but that way you don't have to worry about the monsters chasing you.
Oh, you're saying, yeah.
I mean, there's a way around it, but I'm just saying, if you wanted to, focus it more on the caper side, that's one way to do it.
I think so too.
Remove the monster, and then, of course, this, I don't know why I'm saying that, that's part of the story, but I mean, you could have easily changed it to something else, like a bottled city of Candor, just something else that is going to die if they don't get it out of time.
Sure. Or just have a better reason for robbing a bank and remove the monster storyline so we don't have a Hyde ending. So one of the problems I had with it as watching is like, they show these great videos of how cool the Bank of Karabraxos, which sounds great the first time you say it, but the more they repeat it, the more I got annoyed with it. I don't know if it's a personal thing. It's a great name. They show the video of all these great, super cool, okay, you have to breathe every single exit, and it can sense guilt, and it can do this, everything's locked, there are flamethrowers in the ceiling, and we saw none of that past the promotional video. Once they got there, it's like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to dimly lit hallways and hide in vents.
Yeah.
And I was like, And while there's an interesting mystery with the architects leaving items around, I feel that, in a way, shoots itself in the foot, because it felt like, the doctor could do everything except for X without anybody. He couldn't get into the vault. The Deus Ex Machina of the vault opening due to solar storms, I think is fine had the solar storms or the sun's activity been mentioned at least once prior to.
I'm wondering if that could have been cut.
It very easily could have been cut.
That's what I'm saying, I'm curious.
What I'm saying is I felt like, they did all this stuff, and our computer hacker did, all these really cool things, which eventually led to really almost next to nothing.
Well, here's the thing is maybe you still needed to get all those other locks out.
Sure.
And, something that could be, it can be fixed with a line. Of course, we're not writing Doctor Who. I would love to write Doctor Who. You would love to write Doctor Who. These are just our opinions and our reviews. I just want to say, even though we're being critical and sort of dissecting this thing, we love this episode. In the sense that we love Doctor Who, and we're not saying that this is bad, because sometimes, it makes
if we didn't love Doctor Who, we wouldn't be doing this show.
Exactly. But I just want to make sure people
I'm just looking at it. I have been listening. I've been kind of writing kick recently, and it's just kind of going, okay, let's take a look at this script, and it's like Chekhov's gun. If you're gonna show the gun in the first scene, it has to show up in whatever the end.
Yeah.
Well, if it's something that shows up at the end out of nowhere, and it may have been in the original script, I'm just saying that I would have liked to have seen
I'm agreeing, but I just want to make sure people make sure that, we love the show.
Yeah. I want to talk about Moffat or Thompson's need to tell people not to do things. Obviously, Don't Blink is it's classic. If there's anything from New Who that's going to go down as classic Doctor Who from the new series, it's going to be Blink. We got Don't Blink. And in this season, in 5 episodes, we have got Don't Breathe, Don't Turn Around, and Don't Think. These are all interesting concepts, and I think spread throughout a larger chunk of the thing. I'll tell you what, I would have liked to have seen Time Heist be the 3rd episode.
Yeah, I think did we talk about that?
Well, we hadn't talked about it, hadn't watched it first.
Yeah.
You and I said we needed something to break.
Yeah.
I think this would have been, because the Doctor's still really callous in this one, and it definitely keeps you guessing, and of course, spoilers, the big reveal that he is the architect, which, surprise.
There wasn't surprised.
There wasn't much of a surprise in anything other than kind of sort of.
Okay, let me talk about my theory about what's going on, because I think you could be correct. One thing I've noticed that we were talking about how the TARDIS keeps swimming with books, the lighting keeps changing and stuff like that over the episodes. This week's episode, it was much bluer and there were no books.
Well, there were books, but there weren't the stacks of them.
So I'm wondering if we're following this via Clara's timeline as opposed to the Doctor's, where the Doctor is, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey all over this linear progression that we're getting from Clara, which I now want to go back and watch the other episode to see what the TARDIS looks like. But it was much bluer this time, and there were a lot less books. The books weren't on the stairs, so I'm really starting to wonder what order we're actually watching these things in. Because if we go back and actually try to watch it in the Doctor's order, these episodes might clearly be different.
I think that would be a great idea. I think it might be it's one of those things, judging Moffat based off of, what we've seen so far. He's obviously a big picture. I like the idea, and I would applaud them for doing.
You came up with that idea back
for 7A.
For 7A that we were watching it out of order. I'm really wondering if we're watching it in Clara's timeline and not the Doctor's. And it would be interesting to go back and watch it in the Doctor's timeline versus Clara's.
I have to go back and rewatch it too because I have another weird theory, but I want to save that for a little bit. I don't have a whole lot more I want to talk about, but let's talk about the scene where Psy flashes the villains on the wall. So here's what we get. We get two humans. I don't recognize them. They could be from our history, probably UK history. We get a Sensorite, which I find fascinating. Yeah, the Sensorite's the third one you see. And the idea of a Sensorite criminal, they're so lame. I like the episode. But
I think the reason why we get that, would be because they're psychic powers. The Doctor might have thought that, their psychic abilities might have been helpful.
Well, this is not the Doctor's line. Psy just accessed villains. Because, trust me, he's not inviting... Okay, we had a weird alien we've never seen before, as far as I'm concerned. The fourth one. The fifth one, we get a human. The sixth one is the gunslinger. So we get the gunslinger from the town called Mercy.
Awesome.
Yeah. Followed by a Tereptal, which is the third mention we've gotten them since then. Then we got John Hart from Torchwood, of course, as played by James Marsters.
Really? He's in there?
He's in there, absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome.
Followed by Absalon Dak. We get a Ice Warrior,
awesome.
a Slovene, and then it starts to repeat itself. And you know what I felt? Absalon Dak, I should be happy. I know, as a Whovian, I feel entitled. If they had just shown us a picture of Sabalon Glitz, this would have been the greatest episode. They had shown both Absalon Dak from the comics and Sabalon Glitz from the classic series. Just as far as master criminals, I'm sure it's probably you can show a character who's wearing a costume without having to pay the actor royalties. I don't know how the UK works it, but having the actual actor who played Sabalon Glitz.
Yeah, because it definitely is different. Because just from us talking with the people at Tiny Rebel and Dr. Good Legacy, it's really interesting about some of the character images that they have in there and why they have certain ones and others they don't. Because there is something, I guess, to do with imagery and actors' likenesses.
Yeah. I mean, I've got several pages of notes. It seems kind of weird that the Bank of Karabraxis has cameras watching the brain dead guys, the soup guys.
Well, they mentioned why.
No, I know. I'm saying it's weird that they have that, but there are no cameras watching the doors. It's like the guards come in and go, "Hey, what happened?"
Well, it could be an ego thing. That it's like we're so impregnable. We don't need cameras on the doors. It's that classic.
It could very well be. It could very well be. However, if I'm going to put my bank, if I can own a solar system, I want cameras. But that's just me.
You're pain.
You were really defending this bank. Okay. Anyway, I imagine this is a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon.
Exactly.
It's like if I had created this whole thing and given this thing, and you just managed to go into the sewers, which the vents, by the way, in this bank are huge. Huge. She's got vent holes like this in her office. Sure, she needs to breathe, but you know what? I would be a little worried. I would have things floating around, antibodies or whatever, inside the vents.
Yeah, you see,
never mind.
See, you're being the DM, I'm being the player.
Sure, right.
I'm the thief.
I don't have a whole lot else to say other than a couple of theories.
Well, give us some theories.
Okay. Just a couple of just really small things. Character-wise, I think Saber and Sai are meant to be really good people. That's probably why he chose them, because after they get the items that they need, they continue to risk their lives for it, and that's fine. If we saw them again, I wouldn't have a problem. The actors did a good job. The characters are interesting. You had mentioned that the actors themselves play Doctor Who Legacy,
Legacy.
big thumbs up for them.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying playing Sabra.
Yeah.
She's a fun character. She randomly chooses a color to give a bonus to, which is fun. It hasn't worked out ever in my favor, but it is fun. I did not like the fact that there were no aliens other than the teller in the bank. I kind of like the idea of if this is the most secure and richest bank in the universe, I would have liked to have seen some extra aliens.
What if they're racist?
They could very well be racist. They are the 1% of the galaxy.
Exactly.
There were hipsters, but there weren't aliens. I still would have liked to have seen some, and even in Karabraxos's room, her private vault, there was no alien artifacts. Everything was from the Earth's history. And I was like, nah. The one thing I have in my notes going, what's up with the pink rocket? Question mark. There's this pink rocket.
Yeah.
I found out what's up with it because the extra, it says that that is Douglas McKinnon's daughter made that for him.
Aww.
And he wanted to put it on the set. So
that's awesome.
That's a priceless artifact for him. I think that's really sweet, Douglas McKinnon. Do more things like that, but let us know what it is, because otherwise, if I hadn't heard that, I would have been like, ooh, theory. It could be a rock, So vents are too big. I didn't really dig the ending of High. It's like a High-like ending. It switches. I assumed he was the architect. I assumed that the teller, getting the teller out was involved. As soon as she said, everyone has a price. I'm like, oh, this is about the teller probably, or something else. Though I do like the timey-wimey aspect of Karabraxos herself, getting his number, knowing he's a time traveler. I have a feeling that may come back, but we didn't get a Missy reference directly, and so here's what I'm thinking. In episode 1 of Deep Breath, did he push the half-faced man or did the man jump? And I heard some people say we feel like he pushed him with his words and his logic. There's a moment at the very end where the doctor basically says, call me, you are going to be old and you're going to be filled with regret. I feel
she's the one.
It could be, but I also feel like we may be looking at something where the doctor is in fact giving them a little psychic push, and we may see that come back to us. And I kind of want to go back and look at...
Well, I mean, if you want to go back to the very beginning, Susan did have psychic powers.
Oh yeah,
the doctor.
In the episode with the Sensorites.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, we know that the Doctor has the ability to hypnotize people. It's in classic episodes. I'm just saying
but
that would be interesting.
But at least we have another death in this episode.
We have several deaths.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm like, if I was going to pick one person out that might end up in heaven, it would be, what's her name?
Karabraxos?
Yeah, I can't even be able to say that right now with my voice.
Someone told me that the Deep Breath set, the garden, is the same set from The Girl Who Waited. I'm not saying that it is the same location, but it's the same set. And I'm like, interesting. Also at the very end, Sabra hugs the doctor, and the doctor has this weird look in his face and holds his shoulder as if he's in pain. I don't know. I like that he doesn't hug. I like that he's still kind of a jerk.
He's not a hugger.
He's definitely not a hugger. I like that. I'm still very happy with Jenna Coleman. I'm still happy with Capaldi.
The run scene was great.
The run scene, just having him being out of breath.
Yeah, it's like, no,
running.
we're
Thank
done.
you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, because
it's great. It's like, okay, good, no running. And we and I have been talking about that like last week. No one's running this episode. It's been pretty well. Yeah, so you get him running and he's tired. So, yeah, it was a good episode.
And next week, we have, is it the carer or the caretaker?
The caretaker. So apparently caretaker is essentially landlord / janitor.
Yeah.
He's a caretaker. So, the doctor using John Smith
Oh
as
my
an alias.
God, that made me so happy because he hasn't used it since Tenet.
I feel like there's a Matt Smith, John Smith. But
I could be wrong, but I can't think of one. So if you guys out there, you guys are better at this than us sometimes. If you know of a moment where Smith uses John Smith, because there were a few times I thought he was going to, but he didn't. Let us know. Throw it in the comments.
We'll definitely have to look at it.
And we'll give you a nod on the next episode.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm looking over the notes. I mean, yeah. There's the dialogue between the two of them are shutty, up, and then he tells her, when he wants her to say something, he tells her to D shut up. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good episode. It was fun.
Like I said, they've been consistent this season so far.
They have, and I expect good things from. Gareth
Well, see,
Roberts' script
I have really high expectations now of the next episode because, of course, when we talked before, we thought the caretaker was going to be Clara, but not the doctor. So, and at Coal Hill, I mean, this has so much potential.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just put this out there. I'm assuming that Danny Pink is going to get pulled into the Doctor's world in this one. I'm not saying he has to become a companion, but I'm saying that he's going to meet the Doctor and stuff is going to happen and they're going to realize something.
The only thing that worries me is that the teaser had such a feeling of being like the Power of Three, which isn't one of my favorite episodes.
Sure.
And I really don't want a rehash of the Power of Three. So I'm hoping we get a really that episode, but we get that cool looking robot.
Yeah, with the funny voices and the.
Yeah, would somebody say he looked like that? Watch the episode Spin Jack or Spring Hill Jack?
Oh, that's right. They said, would that be Spring Hill Jack if we were doing the Victorian?
So who knows? Maybe it's a modern version of Spring Hill Jack. We just gotta wait and see. So if that's everything, we're
going to cover a lot of our other stuff that we were planning on doing next time.
We'll get there. So this is GPR signing off. Until next time, peace.